Hello everyone. I would like to share with you a video recording myself while I am reading what I wrote in May 18, 2025 on my support page I created on Facebook and all the social media platforms called Get Support for International Human Rights. I want to read what I wrote. Good morning. That's my first formal request for support to the Court of Justice of the European Union. I'm waiting for a response yet. This is the caption of the post. Instead, it's my pleasure to read all the information I wrote instead on the PDF I attached in that post. I sent through email to the European Court of Justice located in Luxembourg, and all the emails are attached in this document. Subject: supporting statement and evidence of persecution. Dear Sir or Madam, I respectfully submit the following summary together with the documentary evidence in support of my application. 1. Initial incident, 29 September 2020. On 29 September 2020, I was residing in Turin, Italy, when I received an urgent telephone call to return home immediately to assist and support my family. This event marked the beginning of the serious difficulties and I and my relatives have since endured. Point 2. Legal proceedings and retaliation. Following my efforts to resolve a complex legal dispute involving certain Italian government authorities arising from events connected to my father and family, I was subjected to a campaign of retaliation. In response to my legitimate complaints, my privacy and personal well-being were systematically violated. On 8 April 2024, I suffered an heart attack in my rented apartment and required emergency medical treatment. Point 3. Obstructions to justice and continuing harassment. Despite numerous health-related examinations, police reports, and legal filings, I have encountered persistent obstacles. The authorities have repeatedly disregarded both the law and the Constitution, continuing covert activities aimed at undermining my life and health. Point 4. Professional and personal harassment. As part of this campaign, my electronic devices, email accounts, and telephone communications have been monitored to impede my job searches and requests for medical assistance. Attempts to change my name and surname or to relocate within the EU and elsewhere, for example, Andorra, have been foiled. I have been denied the opportunity to obtain new employment in Italy. Point 5. Loss of fundamental rights. Since the onset of these events, I have effectively lost privacy. My every action in private and in public is monitored. Freedom of movement and association. I cannot form friendships or pursue personal relationships without interference. Economic opportunity. I am unable to open a business or secure gainful employment. Personal safety. I have suffered identity theft, SIM card and smartphone theft, and repeated cyber attacks. Health and well-being. My physical and mental health have deteriorated. Any further relapse is likely to be dismissed as stress and anxiety. despite detailed medical records proving otherwise. For example, during a 2-week stay in Czech Republic, my symptoms were initially downplayed. Only 12 months later was a mild heart condition formally diagnosed, indicating an attempt to conceal the extent of my injuries at the time of treatment. Point 6. Current deficiencies in Italy. I can no longer enjoy the body. For example, during a 2-week stay in Czech Republic, my symptoms were initially downplayed. Only 12 months later was a mild heart condition formally diagnosed, indicating an attempt to conceal the extent of my injuries at the time of treatment. Point 6. Current deficiencies in Italy. I can no longer enjoy the basic rights and protections to which every citizen is entitled. Personal security from both governmental and criminal actors, access to healthcare, equal opportunity to work, freedom from unwarranted surveillance, right to family life, protection of property, including my place of birth, provision of basic necessities, food, water, etc., respect of human rights. These circumstances compel me to seek protection and fresh start abroad. I am fully prepared to comply with all legal requirements, and I remain committed to abiding by Swiss laws and regulations. Please advise me of any additional information or documentation you require to initiate the review of my case. I thank you for your attention and remain at your disposal for any further inquiries. Yours faithfully, Giuseppe Buonconsiglio. It's dated 4/25/2025. And instead, now I want to add the main document. It starts with the subject of the second part of the document is submission of a supporting statement concerning alleged violations of human rights by the Italian government. Resume of my personal incident. Dear Sir or Madam, my name is Giuseppe Buonconsiglio and I'm respectfully submitting this communication to bring to your attention what I believe to be serious and ongoing violations of my fundamental human rights by the Italian government. This statement is submitted in support of my formal request for interpretation and review under the relevant provisions of European human rights law. Initial incident, 29 September 2020. On 29 September 2020, I was residing in Turin, Italy, when I received an urgent telephone call to return home. I'm sorry, this is the part I already read first. I want to go ahead in the main part. I didn't read first. Yeah. Further details about violation of the following articles of EU Convention Human Rights. Below, I outlined specific articles of the European Convention of Human Rights and its protocols that I believe have been infringed upon, along with a brief contextual reference. Section 1, Rights and Freedoms, allegedly violated. Article 1, Obligation to respect human rights. Instead, according to my point of view, despite the duty of the state to secure to everyone the rights and freedoms defined in the Convention, I believe the Italian authorities have failed to do so in my case. Article 2, Right to Life. The article above indicated says the following words: everyone's right to life shall be protected by law. No one shall be deprived of his life intentionally, save in the execution of a sentence of a court following his conviction of a crime for which this penalty is provided by law. Deprivation of life shall not be regarded as inflicted in contravention of this article when it results from the use of force which is no more than necessary in defense of any person from unlawful violence in order to effect a lawful arrest or to prevent the escape of a person lawfully detained. In action lawfully taken for the purpose of quelling a riot or insurrection. Instead, according to my point of view, the state has a fundamental duty to protect life. I believe certain action or inactions by Italian public authorities have placed my safety at risk. In contradiction with Article 2, Paragraph 1 and 2, I am prepared to provide specific incidents upon request. Article 5, Right to Liberty and Security. The article above indicated says the following words: everyone has the right to liberty and security of person. No one shall be deprived of his liberty, save in the following cases in accordance with the procedure prescribed by law. The lawful detention of a person after conviction by a competent court. The lawful arrest or detention of a person for non-compliance with the lawful order of a court or in order to secure the fulfillment of any obligation prescribed by the law. The lawful arrest or detention of a person effected for the purpose of bringing him before the competent legal authority on reasonable suspicion of having committed an offense, or when it is reasonably considered necessary to prevent his committing an offense or fleeing after having done so. The detention of a minor by lawful order for the purpose of educational supervision, or his lawful detention for the purpose of bringing him before the competent legal authority. The lawful detention of persons for the prevention of the spreading of infectious diseases of persons of unsound mind, alcoholics or drug addicts or vagrants. The lawful arrest or detention of a person to prevent his affecting and authorized entry into the country, or of a person against whom action is being taken with a view to deportation or extradition. Everyone who is arrested shall be informed promptly in a language which he understands of the reasons for his arrest and of any charge against him. Everyone arrested or detained in accordance with the provisions of paragraph 1 of this article shall be brought promptly before a judge or other officer authorized by law to exercise judicial power, and shall be entitled to trial within a reasonable time or to release pending trial. Release may be conditioned by guarantees to appear for trial. Everyone who is deprived for his liberty by arrest or detention shall be entitled to take proceedings by which the lawfulness of his detention shall be decided speedily by a court, and his release ordered if the detention is not lawful. Everyone who has been the victim of an arrest or detention in contravention of the provisions of each article shall have an enforceable right to compensation. Instead, according to my point of view, I allege that I have been subjected to unjustified limitation on my liberty without legal basis or due process, contrary to the guarantees provided under Article 5. Article 8, right to respect for private and family life. The article above indicated says the following words: everyone has the right to respect for his private and family life, his home and his correspondence. There shall be no interference by a public authority with the exercise of this right except such as, in accordance with law and is necessary in a democratic society in the interest of a national security, public safety, of the economic well-being of the country, for the prevention of disorder or crime, for the protection of health or morals, or for the protection of the rights and freedoms of others. Instead, according to my point of view, I believe there has been unlawful interference with my private and family life by governmental authorities, which was neither necessary in a democratic society nor justified by public interest or legal norms. Article 10, freedom of expression. The article above indicated says the following words: everyone has the right to freedom of expression. This right shall include freedom to hold opinions and to receive and impart information and ideas without interference by public authority and regardless of frontiers. This article shall not prevent states from requiring the licensing of broadcasting, television, or cinema enterprises. The exercise of these freedoms, since it carries with it duties and responsibilities, may be subject to such formalities, conditions, restrictions, or penalties as are prescribed by law and are, wait for the next page, and are necessary in a democratic society in the interest of national security, territorial integrity, or public safety, for the prevention of disorder or crime, for the protection of health or morals, for the protection of the reputation or rights of others, for preventing the disclosure of information received in confidence, or for maintaining the authority and impartiality of the judiciary. I need to have clear and formal legal proofs because they are not respecting the national law first. Instead, according to my point of view, my right to freely express myself, to receive and impart information, and to hold opinions has been restricted without legitimate justification. I respectfully request that the court assess whether the national authorities have acted within their legal bounds. Protocols to the Convention. Article 1 of the Protocol Number 1, Protection of Property. The article above indicated says the following words: every natural or legal person is entitled to peaceful enjoyment of his possession. No one shall be deprived of his possessions except in the public interest and subject to the conditions provided by the law and by the general principles of international law. The preceding provisions shall not, however, in any way impair the right of a state to enforce such laws as it deems necessary to control the use of property in accordance with the general interest, or to secure the payment of taxes or other contribution or penalties. Instead, according to my point of view, I have experienced what I believe to be unjust deprivation and interference with my personal property, not justified by public interest or in accordance with the law. Article 2 of Protocol Number 4, Freedom of Movement. The article above indicated says the following words: everyone lawfully within the territory of a state shall, within the territory, have the right to liberty of movement and freedom to choose his residence. Everyone shall be free to leave any country, including his own. No restrictions shall be placed on the exercise of these rights other than such as are in accordance with law and are necessary in a democratic society in the interest of national security or public safety, for the maintenance of public order, for the prevention of crime, for the protection of health or morals, or for the protection of the rights and freedoms of others. The rights set forth in paragraph 1 may also be subject in particular areas to restrictions imposed to accordance with law and justified by the public interest in a democratic society. If you are lawfully within a country, you have the right to go where you want and to live where you want within it. Instead, according to my point of view, my right to freedom of movement within my country and to live it freely has been restricted in ways that appear neither necessary nor proportionate in a democratic society. Request for action. Considering the above, I respectfully request that the Court acknowledge receipt of this supporting statement and advise me on the steps necessary to proceed with a formal complaint or application. Should you require additional details, documentation, or legal arguments, I am ready and willing to provide them promptly. Please advise me of any additional information or documentation you require to initiate the review of my case. I thank you for your attention and remain at your disposal for any further inquiries. Next page and last one. In the additional pages attachment, you'll find all the detailed attachment I have, but seeing that there's a limit of pages for the application, I reserve to produce them when you request me. Yours faithfully. Wrote in 4/30/2025 at 4:33 p.m.